Imagine this. There's a room that gives you anything you wish for. Cash, gold, rare art, even a child. But here's the catch. What would you have to give up? What happens when a couple keeps pushing their luck and ends up stuck for real? How does it all turn out in the end? Let's break it down in today's movie recap. Matt and Kate are a young married couple who just moved into an old house up north in Springwell, New York. They start settling in, clearing out old stuff, rearranging the place with their own furniture, and like most newlyweds, they share a few laughs, even play a quick game of hide and seek around the house. But just like any old house in a horror film, strange things start to happen. One day, Kate finds a dead bird in the kitchen. She takes it outside, planning to bury it, but then it suddenly vanishes. Where did it go? No one knows. Meanwhile, as a painter, Matt starts organizing his workspace. While clearing out piles of old junk, he notices a part of the wallpaper that's torn, and behind that tear, there's a hidden door. Strangely, the keyhole doesn't look like any regular lock. Kate suddenly remembers. While tidying up earlier, she came across an antique object that looked oddly similar. They dig through the pile again, and when they try it on the door, it fits. The mysterious door slowly creaks open. Matt and Kate step into the hidden room. It's pitch black inside, and then all the lights in the house start flickering. Matt brushes it off. Just old house stuff, he says. Nothing to worry about. The next morning, Matt calls in an electrician to check the wiring in the basement. Turns out it's a total mess. Wires tangled everywhere, all leading to an old rusty generator. There's not much the electrician can do. He says the system's way too chaotic to fix just like that. But before he leaves, he shares something unsettling. Apparently, the house used to belong to a couple who were murdered in a pretty gruesome way. That night, Matt starts digging into it. He finds an old record about a brutal double murder back in 1975. The victims, a married couple, the same people who once owned the house. The killer was caught, but even today, no one knows who he really was. He's only known as John Doe, the name they give to someone with no identity. Ever since the murder, no one had lived in that house again. Not until Matt and Kate bought it, completely unaware of its dark history. The low price didn't raise any red flags. But after learning the truth, Matt starts feeling uneasy. He begins to question their decision, especially since things weren't going great between them either. Matt still hadn't landed a job as an illustrator, and in the meantime, Kate was working late nights as a translator, barely making ends meet. The pressure slowly started to weigh on both of them, and the mystery behind the house was only just beginning. To clear his mind, Matt spends more time in that strange room. He sketches the face of John Doe, the alleged killer, while sipping on a bottle of liquor. When the bottle runs dry, he leans back with a tired sigh. And without really thinking, he says something simple. He wishes for another bottle. And like magic, a fresh bottle appears right in front of him. That's when Matt realizes, this room can grant any wish. The lights flicker again, like a warning, or maybe a signal. That night was just the beginning. Matt spends hours asking for all sorts of things. Expensive furniture, legendary paintings, all of them the real deal. Van Gogh, the Mona Lisa, even something ridiculous like the Yao Ming meme. It all appears one by one. The next morning, Kate walks in and is stunned. The house looks completely different. She's confused by all the bizarre things lying around. Matt tells her to try it herself. Just say the one thing she wants most. Half joking, Kate says she could use $1,000. And right then and there, it shows up in the middle of the room. At first, she laughs. Maybe Matt planned it somehow. Maybe it's fake. But it all feels way too real. Matt urges her to ask for more. Still unsure, Kate says it. $1 million. And boom, it appears instantly. Kate's face changes. There's a flicker of fear in her eyes, because this doesn't make sense anymore. But at the same time, the temptation is impossible to resist. Even though something about it feels wrong, Matt chooses to ignore the warning signs and lets himself enjoy the magic while it lasts. After a bit of convincing, Kate gives in. They head back into the room, this time fully giving themselves over to the luxury. Anything they wanted appeared in an instant. Piles of cash, designer clothes, gourmet food, top-shelf liquor. They drank, danced, and lived like nothing outside those walls mattered anymore. Days went by. At first, it all felt amazing, but over time, having everything handed to them started to feel empty. Everything was too easy, too instant, and without realizing it, they began to lose their sense of purpose. Kate started to grow distant, her thoughts scattered, her mood darker. Seeing this, Matt tried to bring a little hope back into her life. He set up a small surprise. He decorated a nursery. Before they moved into the house, Kate had suffered 2 miscarriages. Medically, there was nothing wrong with either of them. That's what made Matt hopeful again. Maybe this time, they could try once more. But Kate was still haunted by the trauma. The fear of losing another child for the 3rd time was too much to bear. One day, she left the house to clear her head. But when she came back, everything had changed. And there he saw a baby boy lying in the crib he had just prepared. The baby had appeared out of nowhere. Turns out Kate had made a wish. She asked the room for a child. No pain, no heartbreak, just the baby. Matt was furious. To him, a decision that big shouldn't be made like that, not without both of them agreeing. At one point, Matt even tried to erase the baby. He went into the room and wished him away, but by then, they had already fallen in love. That long-held dream of becoming parents made it impossible to let go. In the end, they decided to keep the baby, and they named him Shane. The next day, Matt dug deeper into the history of John Doe and the murders that happened in the house. He came across an old article where the killer once said, "The room made me do it." Curious about what that meant, Matt visited the psychiatric hospital where John Doe was being held. Through a quick search, he discovered something chilling. In 45 years, no one had ever visited John Doe. No one, except a few journalists. When Matt finally sat face to face with him, he noticed something strange. John Doe knew. He somehow knew that Matt was now living in the cursed house, and from the look on his face, it was like he could already tell that Matt had been enjoying everything the magical room had to offer. Then John Doe admitted it. He had killed the previous owners of the house. In his words, it was the only way out. But he didn't go into details. He just said one thing, and he said it dead serious. "You need to leave that house before it's too late." On his way home, Matt stops at a gas station. But when he tries to pay, he's shocked. Every dollar he pulls out crumbles into dust. Gone. Right in his hands. That's when the awful truth starts to sink in. Everything created inside that room can't exist outside the house. Once it crosses the threshold, it disappears. Back home, Matt puts the theory to the test. He throws a stack of cash out the front door, and just like that, it turns to dust in midair. To be sure, he tries something else. He pushes a Van Gogh painting, one of the room's creations, partly out the window. And exactly as he suspected, the part that touches the outside vanishes into ash. It's now painfully clear. The room doesn't create anything real, just illusions. Illusions that only survive within the walls of that house. Curious about the source of the room's strange power, Matt starts inspecting the structure of the house. He tears down wall after wall, and behind them, he finds a bizarre network of tangled wires. The entire house is laced with a complex web of electrical cables, all connected in ways that make no logical sense. After digging deeper, Matt uncovers the house's electrical blueprint. The layout is far too intricate for a normal home. It feels like part of one massive machine, designed not just to power lights, but to serve a much darker purpose. Not long after, Shane, the child they wished for, starts getting restless. He's tired of being cooped up indoors. Ignoring Matt's warnings, he sneaks outside to get some fresh air. But just past the property line, something goes wrong. Shane's body starts to change, rapidly. Like everything else born from that room, his body begins to age at an unnatural speed. Within seconds, he grows years older and then collapses. Matt rushes to bring him back inside. And thankfully, once inside the house, Shane stabilizes. From that moment on, Matt and Kate realize the room follows strict rules. Anything it creates cannot exist outside. If it does, it crumbles into dust. And that includes Shane. To protect him, they lie. They tell Shane he has a rare illness, one that makes it too dangerous for him to go outside. A made-up story meant to keep him safe and keep him inside. Meanwhile, Kate takes on the role of teacher. She helps Shane learn how to read, write, do math, even teaches him logic puzzles and games. But as time goes on, Shane's curiosity grows stronger. He starts asking more questions, quietly building up frustration about the world beyond the walls. Matt, on the other hand, becomes more cautious than ever. He orders a real gun, online, not from the room, because he knows if the gun came from the room, it would turn to dust the moment he stepped outside. Matt starts to realize they're not just dealing with the power of the room, they're facing something far more terrifying. What happens when something the room created starts to think and feel? Then one day, Shane nearly steps outside. He sees a small chance when the door is left slightly open, and he almost walks through it. Kate completely panics. She yells, slams the door shut, and from that moment on, everything changes. She tightens the security around the house. Windows are boarded up, and every exit is locked. As Kate grows more attached to Shane, something else begins to shift. Matt starts to spiral. His mind becomes unstable. Everything happening in the house begins to feel like a nightmare he can't wake up from. He even starts to question what's real. Is Shane just an illusion? Or worse, is he a threat? Matt begins to withdraw. He isolates himself in his studio, covering the walls with paper scraps, painting everything in black ink. He barely speaks, barely sleeps. The chaos isn't just around them anymore, it's growing inside them. Then one day, Shane accidentally walks into Matt's studio. Instead of welcoming him, Matt lashes out, angry, disturbed, and tells Shane to get out. Kate sees what happened, and as a mother, she refuses to accept the way Matt is treating their son. The fight between them is inevitable. The next morning, Kate notices something strange. A broken ornament Shane had smashed earlier. Somehow, it's back on the shelf, perfectly intact. That's when it hits her. Shane has been using the room, and he's been doing it without them knowing. Matt returns to the room, but now it feels different, endless, strange. This time he asks for something unusual. He wishes for the room to become a vast forest. Magically, trees appear all around them, stretching as far as the eye can see. Shane is thrilled, laughing and playing among the leaves like he's in paradise. But Matt feels uneasy. He sees it now. Shane is getting too comfortable, too wild, too hard to control. Driven by fear, Matt grabs Shane and pulls him back inside the house. He locks the room, then hides the key deep in a drawer, desperate to cut off Shane's access to that kind of power. Later, Matt explains everything to Kate. He believes Shane might start wishing for things that are dangerous, things that could get them all killed, because Shane, no matter how smart, is still just a child, and children don't know how to control their emotions. Then, the phone rings. Shane picks it up. It's John Doe. Through that call, John Doe learns the truth, that Matt and Kate had asked the room for a child, and then he reveals something Matt never saw coming. Everything created by the room, objects, animals, even people, can leave the house without turning to dust. But there's a catch. The person who made the wish must be dead. And just like that, the real twist begins to unfold. John Doe wasn't just some random stranger. He was the child of the couple who used to live in that house. The same couple he ended up killing. But the story runs deeper than that. His mother, filled with love and desperation, killed her husband first, then allowed her son to kill her so that he could finally live a normal life. Outside the house, no longer a creation, but free. All at a terrible cost. Another shocking truth comes to light. John Doe wasn't born like most people. He was created by the room, just like Shane. That explained why his identity was never found. He wasn't part of the real world. He existed because of a wish. Now Matt was faced with an impossible choice. Either end Shane's life to save Kate, or sacrifice Kate so Shane could live outside the house. It was a weight he never expected to carry. What Matt didn't know was that Kate had been listening to the entire conversation from another room. She heard everything, and without saying a word, she quietly left the house. For hours, she didn't return. She reached a point of emotional collapse, unsure of what to do next. The pressure nearly pushed her past her limit. Meanwhile, Matt was unraveling. He locked himself in his studio, overwhelmed by everything he had just learned. With no one watching him, Shane began to act out. He moved through the house in frustration, knocking things over, scattering objects, and creating chaos. Eventually, confusion and doubt started to grow inside him. He began to wonder where Kate had gone, and whether Matt was truly the father he believed him to be. Shane's behavior grew increasingly emotional, and eventually Matt could no longer hold back. He finally told Shane the truth, everything that had been hidden from him, the reality of who he was and where he came from. After all the chaos, guilt began to set in. Matt apologized, and though it wasn't easy, Shane accepted it. When Kate returned home and saw the quiet moment between them, a smile finally returned to her face. For the first time in a long while, their little family felt like it was starting to come together. That night, Matt woke to find Kate beside him. The distance between them seemed to fade, and for a brief moment, they reconnected, allowing themselves to breathe again after everything they had been through. But that moment of closeness didn't go unnoticed. Shane, who had also woken up, saw it all from a distance, and what he saw only deepened the anger inside him. Most of all, toward Matt. The next morning, Shane quietly left the house carrying the key he had secretly taken from Matt's pocket. The sound of the door opening woke Matt and Kate. When they came downstairs, they saw the front door wide open. Matt immediately sensed something was wrong, and his instincts were right. Shane was outside. In a moment of panic, convinced Shane had become a threat, Matt reacted aggressively. He attacked him. Kate rushed in to protect her son, but during the struggle, she fell. Her head hit the floor, and she was knocked unconscious. Sometime later, Kate finally woke up. But Matt was gone. There was no sign of him anywhere in the house. It soon became clear what had happened. Shane had made a wish to the room. He asked for the same house, and for Matt to be replaced by a version made just for him. Meanwhile, the real Matt managed to break into the duplicate house. He forced his way through the walls, past a maze of tangled wires, and entered a strange, disorienting structure filled with endless rooms and corridors. Inside, he began searching for Kate, who had been hidden away. On the other side, Kate started noticing something wasn't right about the version of Matt she was with. This copy felt too perfect, too gentle, and oddly acted with the jealousy of a child. Shane, now fully grown through the room's magic, had developed an unhealthy obsession. He no longer saw Kate as a mother. His feelings had shifted into something darker, something possessive and unnatural. As Kate began to understand what was truly happening and tried to escape, Shane caught her before she could get away. That's when the real Matt arrived. A struggle broke out as he tried to save her. But Shane had already transformed the entire house into a twisted maze. Matt and Kate were now trapped, wandering through endless corridors, unable to find a way out. As panic grew and escape seemed impossible, Shane, overcome by emotion, turned violent. He attacked Matt with a knife, stabbing him and leaving him collapsed on the floor. But the one who collapsed wasn't the real Matt. Using his instincts and quick thinking, Matt had created a copy of himself to distract Shane. While Shane was focused on the decoy, Matt and Kate managed to escape, rushing back to the original house. But Shane wasn't finished. He followed them, making his way into the real home once again. And this time, they knew there was only one choice left to make. A month had passed since everything that happened in that house. Matt and Kate were now living in a modest motel, trying to rebuild their lives from the ground up. That morning, Matt was making coffee, just like any other day. But something felt off. There was no response from Kate. The door to her room remained closed, and the silence felt unusually heavy. Kate was in the bathroom. She stared at a pregnancy test in her hand. Positive. It wasn't just unexpected. It was terrifying. Her face went pale. Her body trembled, because she knew the truth. The child she was carrying wasn't Matt's. It was Shane's, a being that was never meant to exist. Then the lights in the room began to flicker. A quiet warning. A sign that something deeper was already taking shape. There was now a real possibility that this child had inherited the same strange power. The same force tied to that cursed room. An ending that doesn't close the story, but opens the door to something far more disturbing. This film leaves a lasting impression. With twists unfolding right up to the final second, The Room, directed by Christian Volkmann, delivers a psychological horror that's both original and unsettling. And it's likely that some viewers will walk away with questions. Why didn't they just wish for Shane to disappear? Or change the room's rules so the things it created could survive outside? But that's the thing about stories like this. Not everything needs a logical explanation. Sometimes it's the mystery and absurdity that make it all the more unsettling. One thing is clear though, there's a deeper message behind it all. Unchecked greed leads to destruction. No matter how strong the desire, when something is gained without limits and without effort, there is always a price to pay. If you enjoyed this mind-bending story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more movie recaps with twists you'll never see coming. Got thoughts about The Room? Or your own theory about that ending? Drop them in the comments. We'd love to hear what you think. And if you're into psychological thrillers like this one, check out our next recap, linked right here on the screen. Thanks for watching. And remember, be careful what you wish for.